The call-in numbers?
Yeah, what we're seeing is...
I can see it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to do a test. I'm just going to put up the presentation that we're going to be talking about, so just bear with me. As soon as Joel calls in, I'm going to toggle in between. Looks like he's doing that right now.
Yeah. It was enough, though. I don't need these down, though, right? No, it looks pretty good. It's okay, Mark.
You only turned it so far, Mark, because the wall's there. Yeah.
But it works. I mean,
He's checking on me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to double check.
Can you guys see my slides all right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. All right. Is Mark Lesnicki there too?
Yes.
I believe he is.
Okay, good. So, Mark, can you see the slides? Do you want to log in, or do you have a printout of them?
I've got a printout, and I'm here, and I'm going to go up to the podium, I guess, to talk. Or I can talk from my seat. Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. Your video's not on. Okay.
I don't see Lewis or Joel.
Mayor, I'm back on. I wouldn't, Mayor, don't worry about whether or not you can see anyone on the screen, because everyone can hear you. I'll be in charge of the screen.
Yeah, I don't care about the screen. I'm just worried about the call-ins, that's all. But all I'm saying is my internet keeps giving me a signal that says it's unstable.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And I see
yeah,
where
don't worry.
Roger's trying to get back in.
Yeah, I let him in, so he should be coming in any second. The only issue is that Sandy's not in. And neither is
There's
Jim.
Jim Ettinger.
Joel said he just tried again.
Joel's
and
on
he's
now.
having issues. No, but he can't call in.
Oh.
He says he can hear everything, but he can't talk. Maybe ask Frank.
Well, he's on mute.
The mic. He's
Joel
only
and Roger,
on
you
mute.
should be there. You're unmuted.
Joel, say something.
Am I unmuted now?
Now you're unmuted, Joel.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we got.
I don't know
It's a
why.
very
mistake.
distinct.
I tried to pay him $5 not to unmute you, but
That's a very distinct voice, so we definitely could hear you.
Well, and, 5 minutes ago I did the whole Gettysburg Address, and you guys missed it.
Thank goodness.
it surprised me, Joel. Of course you did that. Lincoln was a great president.
Do I need to put on my jacket? It's a little warm in here.
No, I don't think you should. Lewis is getting dressed up, though.
I know that's
What's your
what's
collar,
getting me.
Lewis?
There is a tie.
Ask Lewis if he can. Lewis,
I'm
can you
frozen.
hear me?
I'm frozen on the screen again.
Did I hear Sandy?
There we go.
Yeah, I did too.
Sandy, you there?
I could have sworn I heard her.
Now, let me ask you, if I dial into the live stream on my other computer, will I see the faces of everybody? Is that
Yes.
the idea?
Yes, that's the idea.
I'm gonna.
You should see him now.
He
So
needs
go
to
on
dial
here.
into be on here, though.
It's still there.
Somebody's not muted.
I just muted. When you don't mute, I'll mute you, so don't worry about it.
David's not muted. David, would you talk so we can hear if you're on?
Yeah, I'm on. Can you
Okay,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
All right.
Mayor, David actually he followed the instructions, so he didn't activate the audio portion.
So the call-in is
Well
for
done.
this system. Yeah. What do you mean?
We'll eventually get there.
Roger's coming on.
I just muted.
There we go.
Yeah, you're visible.
Roger's in twice.
Well,
Yeah, he's over there too. In the other way.
yeah, I think you out of this one.
I'll just X out.
All right, Roger has to call in now on a separate line.
He's in. He's
Oh,
in.
there it is. Oh, okay. Okay, now it works. Yeah, good.
He's in. We hear him. Roger, say hello to Sal.
Hello.
Oh yeah, we hear Roger, but you're not coming through very loud.
I was on my
Yeah, do your volume. Don't touch any of that. You're gonna turn it off, man.
Wife's helping.
How about now?
No, you're.
You're good.
We're a little
Yeah, I
bit
hear
better.
you.
You just have to talk loud enough for it to go through the taping system.
Yeah, it's a taping system there where it may come in like a little bit lower, but through the regular phone, he's coming in well. I can hear him perfectly. The only thing is that I see Roger logged in twice.
He's on his phone and his laptop.
Well, he's not on Zoom.
Yeah, I logged in on 2 computers over Zoom, but the first one didn't seem to be working.
Well, it has you up on my screen. There we go. I think you just took it, deactivated.
Yeah,
it.
it just went down.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can put your phone on speaker, Roger. That way you don't have to carry it or hold it.
Well, they said they couldn't hear.
You couldn't hear me if I was on speaker. I don't know what.
Sandy and
Put it right
Jimmy
here.
and Edgar. And Peter.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in Ruggles.
Hi.
And Jim.
This is my third meeting today, so.
The other
Nice to
thing,
meet
everyone, I want everyone to know that we are broadcasting live right now. If you want to let Frank know, so we are live.
And what's interesting is that I put on the live stream so I could, because on my iPad I can only see one face at a time.
You got to go into gallery. You're not on gallery. You're on speaker mode rather than gallery mode.
Yeah, on the iPad I can't find the gallery mode option.
We could have done that
Yeah.
in this area. We could have had 1, 2,
Zoom, where's gallery mode at?
3, 4 up
Oh,
here.
there. We'll
and
switch
two
to
gallery.
gallery.
Top right, Joel.
I did it. I
Joel,
found
top
it.
right.
I found it. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So do you want it on gallery or do you want it
No,
on speaker?
it's okay.
Kenny, look at him just sitting there rolling.
I'll call Sandy up.
No. I could have sworn I heard him before. Peter didn't sign on? Peter didn't? Yeah, just make sure we can hear him.
Hi, Jeremy. Welcome.
I was going to put video on since I don't think anybody in the public wants to see me. But if you do, I can log into the GoToMeeting.
You can see everybody else, but if you do go into the Zoom meeting, please make sure to not join with audio. You'll be joining with audio.
No, I got that.
Yep, okay. Yeah, and Lewis sent a new link within the last half hour or so.
Yeah, hold on, I got to mute
Today's
my.
Wednesday the 13th.
Jeremy, the phone is live right now for the public to hear.
Great.
Sandy, you should have gotten a packet.
Hello, Jim. Welcome.
Buddy.
Well, you know what? The agenda has a wrong date on it. The agenda has the wrong date on it. I just noticed it when she said that. 7th.
I'm seeing my screen keeps going to blue, like it's almost like it's reloading every couple of seconds. Is anyone else seeing that?
That's the 4th mistake I made.
No, not me.
No.
You know why I don't play cards in the jungle? Too many cheetahs.
Entertainment with a meeting.
Yeah, we need a rim shot on that one for sure.
Hey, why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it.
No.
Hey, I'm not saying I'm Batman, but have you ever seen Batman and South Panther at the same room at the time? Same time? Yeah, think about that for a while. Yeah. My jokes are over. It's 2 minutes to meeting time. Besides, they're all third grade level jokes.
A dad joke?
Doing that, I'm going to take off my glasses, and you know who I become? Me, but...
Hey,
I'm still talking to
kindergarten
Sandy.
humor.
I'm still talking to Sandy. My phone won't shut off. Peter's in.
Sandy in?
Sandy's getting on. And Jim Ettinger's on the phone, you said? Here comes Sandy.
I am on
now.
the phone.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm well. How's everybody?
Good, Jim.
Okay, Jim. Thank you.
Mayor, you may want to ask Sandy if she wants her video to be turned on. I can turn it on for her.
Go ahead and turn it on. Okay, now, Sandy, you have to mute that in and call in.
She muted.
Remember like we did on Thursday at our last Wednesday at our practice. You have to call in the phone number.
And talk through that.
And don't forget the pen.
Okay, she's muted on Zoom. Did she call in yet, Mark?
She's not muted on Zoom. She can hear us.
Here she comes. Yeah.
Is anyone else?
Okay,
Hey,
she's gonna call in. Remember?
Is anyone else here watching
She's
this
gonna call
on
in right now.
through
She's
the
gonna
live
call
stream?
in. Calling right
No. There's going to be there's a slight delay in the live stream, Jeremy.
Yeah, the live stream is blinking blue. I've confirmed it from one other person watching from another location, and you get like every 2 seconds the screen goes all blue, and then it comes back to the Zoom screen.
I don't think IT has started the blue screen yet.
All right.
Yeah, just make sure you all talk clearly for the tape machine, and also talk into as close to your computer as you can, or the phone, whatever you're using. I see Sandy's on. Peter's on the phone, right? Peter, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I hear you. And Jim Ettinger, are you there?
I am.
Okay, good. So we have everybody here. We can start in about 2 minutes. Sandy's calling in.
Hello, I'm there.
She's 0808.
All right, hear you, Sandra.
Yeah, I'm here.
Now we can hear you.
Okay.
I just got kicked out of Zoom. Yeah, I just got kicked out of Zoom. Oh, she's calling me again? I'm telling you, I don't know why my phone just won't disconnect her. Yeah. I don't miss with these fingers.
Maybe that's why your fingers are too big. Is she on it, Mark?
Yeah, she's on.
I don't see anybody, but I'm on.
Top right-hand corner, you'll see a place that says speaker view or gallery view. Just switch it to gallery. But when you switch it to gallery, it'll say speaker.
Nope, I don't see that. It says I am in the top right-hand corner. I got participants.
We can see you.
We can see you.
Well, that's good. I'm in a messy office, but that's all right.
Okay, well, it's 3 minutes
Okay,
after, so we're
yeah.
going to start. Frank?
Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. All rise for the invocation.
That's the pocket.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening, let us be mindful of the crisis our country and our world is going through with this pandemic of the novel virus known as COVID-19. For those that are afflicted or have passed, please look over them and help those who are still living to overcome COVID, and those who have passed, may they rest in peace. Give us the strength tonight to make decisions that are good for our community and for our small businesses who are suffering also through this COVID-19 epidemic. In that name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
which stands
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
With liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you. The live stream makes it a little difficult for us. You have the little bit of a gap, so we're ahead of you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Volcano?
Here.
Mayor Panto?
Here. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Roger.
Moved Ken Brown, seconded by Roger Ruggles.
Second.
Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We're going to skip the, we're going to go to public comment now. For those that want to call in, remember to double.
I have nothing, Mayor.
I just want to point out, I want to congratulate publicly Councilmember Milan for his most recent academic accomplishment. And if those members of council don't know, he was just awarded his master's degree in public administration. So we want to congratulate you on that.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Peter.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Attorney Shear, do you have any report?
No report, thank you.
Okay, report of the mayor. Let me start by just letting everyone know if you get residents from Southside calling you, UGI will be doing a lot of work replacing main lines and service lines on the south side this summer. As you may recall, the horrific accident and tragedy that occurred in Allentown about 12 years ago, UGI is under court order to replace all of the lines in the Lehigh Valley, and they've been doing the city of Easton for a while. They were primarily up on College Hill last year. The year before, they were primarily in the West Ward, and they were still doing some things on South Side the last couple of years. But this year, you'll see them in force. So, the good news is that when Dave Hopkins, the director of Public Works, reported to council and made a recommendation that we extend their overlays to include areas larger than just the trench, that has helped us considerably. And the roads, although they'll be temporarily filled for 60 or 90 days the way PennDOT requires, and there'll be bumps, but when it is done, the permanent financing will be saw cut and then properly filled and asphalted to give a smooth surface. So those of you on South Side may remember Berwick Street about 4 years ago was completely torn up by the water department, but when it was done, because of the new ordinance amendment that we did, they had to repave the entire traffic lane. Also, zoning ordinances, I wanted to just update you on. We need to schedule the meetings in June. We'll probably have both meetings. We expect the Planning Commission to receive that. They've already had hearings on it. They'll have another hearing on it at their meeting in June. And I will tell you that I believe 99.9% of all the residents who had suggestions Mr. Narowski has put them into place, but we do need to move on that because it is holding up several projects that are dependent on it. One of them happens to be our own 4th Street garage because we still require retail space in our own garages, and that's certainly, number one, we would be competing with the private sector. We've already had a lawsuit back in the 70s by Attorney Jerry Brose because the city was renting space in the Pine Street garage cheaper than the private sector. Of course, they were always vacant. As you know, we just donated or gave free rent to both the Career Link and the Northampton Community College. So I'd like to make sure that that's scheduled for the Planning Commission meeting the first week of June, and then come to our meeting in the second meeting and the fourth meeting of second week and the fourth week of City Council, because that's going to be very important. Also, I just want to update City Council. I appointed David Rose now it's probably about 11 years ago to be the city's town crier. And unfortunately, he and his wife are leaving the city. Two very, very good volunteers for us, all Easton. And they're going to be moving away to be closer to their children. So we will need a new town crier. So I will be developing an application process. So if you know anyone that wants to apply for that, they have big shoes to fill, because Dave Rose did a great job as being our town crier, and he didn't miss any events. Next,
I nominate Joel Shear.
Lewis and I and John Kingsley talked about today. The city retained 6 of the Restlawn properties. When they went to sell them, they allowed 6 people to stay in there as tenants. We've sold 2 since I've been in office, so we're down to 4. We have 2 more. One is vacant, and the other one, the person who lives there is looking to purchase it, and her family. So that's at 207 and 218 are going to be available. We did have recent appraisals on them, but you're going to have to put an ordinance together for us to sell property, and we're going to try to get that done in the month of June so we can move them off put them back on the tax rolls. An economic development update. You should know that things are moving forward over at the Easton Yards. Stephen Narowski reported that the rental fence will be in place shortly. There was an issue with the other company that left and took their fence. Black Diamond across the street is almost completely by now it probably is. I was there last night, and all but a little bit had been torn down. The only thing that's going to remain is the smokestack, and it has all those cell phone antennas on them. And I will tell you that the last time they wanted to put additional towers on there, we did require an engineering survey and study, and it did show that it was structurally sound and could handle that. Heritage building across the street is moving extremely well. There's usually 25 to 30 people there every day. Today the roofers and the masons were there, and all the electricians and plumbers are starting to do their rough work. So that's moving along pretty well. I will tell you that right now their plan is that they are delayed, obviously, because of COVID-19, and the new time that the shell should be done by July, and Hearst should be in there sometime in September. So we're anxious about that. Mohawk's doing a good job of moving that project forward. Seville, for City Council's benefit, the apartment complex that Perron's doing down at the old Boyd Theater lot, that has sold. The city received our $1.1 million wire transfer last Wednesday. It was a virtual settlement. Joel said it was the easiest settlement he's ever been at. And the HUD-1 form was just one amount of money. That we got $1.1 million and went into our account. So that project is moving forward. Our monthly parkers that are down there are being given. Sandy's calling again.
I don't know why.
You just called me. You just FaceTimed me.
Yeah, I can't turn it off.
Oh, I had that problem with your phone too. That's why you have so many messages from me, because I didn't know it was still on. But the Seville project is going to be starting within the next 30 to 45 days. Some areas will even start earlier with utility relocations, etc. At this time now, I'd like to present a COVID update. It's been kind of strange in City Hall. I come in every day. Most of the staff is in here. I mean, that senior staff members. We're all in our own little cubicles. We do everything by phone, and it's not the people business that we're used to being involved in, as you know, as elected officials. So let me just before I introduce Steve Lewis and the staff and Mark, let me go over a couple things at the high level. We will be presenting to City Council a new budget for CDBG allocations. I'll let Lewis talk about that. We're meeting again on Friday to try to determine what projects we want to put on hold so that we can create some funds for rental assistance and mortgage assistance for people to keep their homes during this time. That wasn't originally in our initial plan because we really didn't think this was going to go on too long, but it's getting longer and longer, as we all know, and people are going to start to really hurt. They were hurting for the first month, but the second and third month is going to be difficult. So also along that line, I've been doing, and you've been seeing some of my emails and letters that I've been sending to our federal legislators. I've been doing a lot of federal advocacy on behalf of the cities, not just our city, but cities across the country. To date, the CARES Act, which did provide money to local communities and counties as long as you were over 500,000. How many cities in the United States are over 500,000 population? 36 of the 19,000. So you can see that the initial, in my own opinion, but the initial stimulus money was geared towards the big, large corporations, the big box stores. And even though there was the PPP for small businesses, many of our small businesses have not qualified or have not received any money yet. So they're under some stress as well. So a lot of federal advocacy right now. I sent you a copy of or I have it here for you, and I don't know why I made a copy. I'll have to email it to you. The House has the Stimulus 4 package. The Stimulus 4 package does right now provide direct federal funding to local municipalities. Initially, President Trump was on board with that, and so was the Republican Senate and the Republican House. That has switched. Basically, we're being told that it's dead on arrival at the Senate, but it's going to be approved. It's not. I'm sorry. I don't know if it's going to be approved. I'm assuming it's going to be approved in the House, and that vote could come as early as this Friday. And debate will be next week between the House and the Senate versions. But we really need to make sure that cities, boroughs, towns, and townships in Pennsylvania get some assistance. As you know, we've reported a $5.5 million deficit or revenue gap between now and the end of the year. That number only grows as the longer we're closed and shut down. So we understand, as I said in an interview today, we're going to do our share. We're going to cut. We're going to lay people off that we had to do that already with 81 employees. We're hoping to bring them back soon, and I know Lewis is going to address that. But I'm really concerned that if cities don't have the ability to come back and the small business don't have the economic well-being to come back, our nation's economy is really built upon cities. The renaissance that has taken place in this country over the last 10 years is cities. And we really need to have them back online. I do also, as COVID, I talked a lot about portalets for the homeless and underprivileged who may not have a place to go to bathroom when they're downtown. 3 of those portalets have been put in place, and they are equipped. Originally, the county and the city were talking about 1 day a week they would be serviced, and now we're looking at 3 days a week because they really need to be cleaned and filled up. We met today to talk about pools, pavilions, and sports registration fees. A decision was made that the pavilion registration dollars that people have put down as a deposit and the sports registration fees will be refunded to the people. Many of them are waiting for that. Some people have spent as much as $80, depending on how many children they have involved in our summer sports leagues. So we're working, Dave Hopkins is working with Mark Lisinecki now to figure out a way to get those refunds back to the people on with our limited staff. Pools, we're going to wait another 10 days and make a final decision. We realize that if we make a decision not to open the pools, we could save ourselves a lot of money because, as you know, the city does not make money on pools. It costs us a lot of money. But we could, the delta there could be as much as $100,000. But if we close the pools and make a rash decision today, which other communities have done, we may find that July and August, if we could have been open, will be extremely hot. The one thing we have decided is that regardless of whether we open the pools or not, on extremely hot days, we will use the hydrants again with the sprinklers attached to them for kids to cool off again like they did last summer during the heat wave. Parking meters are right now going to be extended to June 15th. In all probability, they'll be extended to June 30th. PennDOT has already extended to June 30th license renewals, registrations, and inspections that are due by the end of May. They will have till the end of June to pick them up. So we won't be giving any parking violations or traffic violations for those things. So before I talk about the business recovery plan, let me turn the COVID update over to Louis Campos, our city administrator, and then I'll go over the business recovery plan. Louis.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Bear with me for 1 second while I put the presentation on the screen.
I've been kicked out of Zoom, so that's better for the public who's watching anyway. They don't have to see my face. Just an outline. Have it now. Oh, yeah, we have it.
Louis,
Yes.
it's Mark. It doesn't look like your presentation or our presentation will be on Zoom. I guess there's an issue with the streaming, so I may not be able to see it. So we'll have to just walk everybody through.
We will email the 4 slides to the city council members after this meeting.
Okay. So
Oh yeah, Louis, can you? You're the host on Zoom. Can you show it? You can bring it up.
You share it.
Yeah.
You share your screen.
Yeah, the public wouldn't see it, but
Well, at least the council members will see it.
Well, I don't know if I will.
You will.
There it is.
Okay, so if you can see my screen, just nod your head on Zoom.
We can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Yep.
And then, as the mayor said, we'll make sure that we post this. We post this presentation online as well, and we'll email it out to all the council members. We are using Zoom internally, so we can broadcast it on our broadcasting channel. But it seems like right now there's some issues going on with the broadcasting. So for the public, we apologize, but we'll correct that. We did this so all the council members have the opportunity to show themselves on the screen. So the presentation is going to be twofold. It's going to, first I'll give an update, and then Mark, Executive Director, will also add more onto the financial side. And this is, as the mayor had mentioned, some projections that we have. Certainly a lot of the information is going to be lagging. So but in certain areas, we have a pretty good idea of how that the numbers are going to be fairly drastic, and with a high degree of certainty, we can predict certain numbers anyway. And we'll walk you through all of those. First of all, the admin and finance team, and it's just more than Mark and myself, but we've been meeting together on a weekly basis. There are there's consistently changes. That's on a week-to-week basis, and as we identify right now the $5.5 million gap, that could change next week, and it has changed. We've seen it expand and contract, so to speak. Most recently, we saw it contract when the governor posted the criteria for opening the economy back up. One second.
Louis, you're going to have to get closer. They can't, some of the council members cannot hear you.
So right now, when we look at the projected shortfall, which is $5.5 million, that does not include, that's the overall shortfall, and that does not include any of the measures that we're taking in order to close that gap. And I'm going to talk about several of those. The last of the two that I'm going to mention is the federal and state support. So right now, as it stands, we have about a 17% shortfall, or that's about a $5.5 million deficit. As you all know, the administration took some cost-cutting measures almost immediately when the economy started to contract due to COVID-19. Firstly, as I had mentioned before in previous updates, back on March 25th and later on April 7th, and then in advising the mayor, who's also provided various updates to the media and to the public in general through his weekly chats. We initially started to make cuts, and some of them were in the form of just general expenses. In addition to that, we started to look at our capital expenses as well, like the major ones for that matter. And that includes street repaving work. We put a hold on that almost immediately, but then realized that the savings was not going to yield the necessary cutbacks in order to reduce the $5.5 million shortfall. In fact, those cutbacks yielded roughly about $1 million, and obviously that still left a major gap at the end of the year. The second item that the administration aggressively then took action on was furloughing 81 employees. And to that extent, the furlough began on April 6th, and continues through today. Since we've furloughed 81 employees, we've recalled a total of about 10 employees. And that's for a couple different reasons, but the main reason is the gap that we're seeing at the end of the year, and the second reason was just that economic activity in general was put at a hold by the governor's office. When we look at the furloughs, just to give everyone some perspective, the city of Easton is self-insured, and that means that the city is responsible for paying the unemployment compensation during the furlough period. So really the savings is not the full salary, but it's a portion of that salary. To give you a little bit more perspective, in April, which a majority of the employees were furloughed, the city saved about $329,000. In May, we're approaching about $308,000. Again, that's because we started to recall about 10 to a dozen employees so far. So there's still a long way to go. There is some hope for both federal and state aid. As the mayor had said, there's potential for CDBG funding that could offset some of our COVID-19 expenses. And also there's some additional state funding that could come in. There is federal funding through the CARES Act that will assist the city with our unemployment liability, in which we're paying right now. But that's only going to be about 50% of our total liability. Or if you look at it as the employee's total salary, it's about 25%. Mind you, during the furlough period, we're still offering health benefits. So that's still an expense. Hence, you see only about a $329,000 or $300,000 savings on a monthly basis. Again, we have a $5.5 million gap, and we've been able to identify about $1 million in savings through cutbacks and different capital projects. To this extent, I do want to emphasize that the city has been working closely with the union that's affected the most, and that's the AFSCME union. We put together a memorandum of understanding with regards to the employees that are furloughed. We are offering health benefits during this time period, and as of right now, the MOU has a beginning date, which is April 6th, and we will have an ending date as well. In fact, we're meeting with the AFSCME union tomorrow, and the administration is going to be extending the MOU period through June. Just as a side note, so everyone understands about the healthcare benefits, the city received special permission, if you will, from our carrier, and that's Capital Blue, to be able to adjust our plan and to have these employees that are furloughed, that are not active employees, and carry their health care benefits through the end of July. After the end of July, as it stands right now, if individuals are still furloughed, we have not received any direction whether or not we can keep those health care benefits. It's a change to the plan, and this is something that's not ordinarily done. So a couple other items with regards to staffing. As you can tell right now, we're using Zoom, but the city adopted also Microsoft Teams. So as best as we can, we are using not only social distancing, but technology in order to carry on the day-to-day business of the city with the skeleton crews that we have. And a couple other items, these are just general updates, but they relate to COVID-19 and what the management team is doing. We're having actually weekly conference calls with other third-class cities. So we're comparing notes on these conference calls, and we're really taking into consideration some of the strategies that other cities are currently using in order to hedge their year-end deficits. I'm going to tell you that right now, none of the cities are really experiencing similar difficulties, but they're all experiencing difficulties. And they're all going through the same process on whether or not to furlough or lay off, and what type of cutbacks that they're going to issue. To that extent, I did participate in a PML webinar, which we talked about furloughs and layoffs. So this is something that the entire state and many municipalities right now are debating whether or not to move forward to furloughs and layoffs. I do want to say that the city acting in an expeditious manner to furlough could eventually probably save us certainly a lot of headache on the operational side. I think in the short run, furloughing in April as opposed to later months was probably a better usage of the furlough tool, in that, like I had mentioned earlier, the economic activity in the city was really grinded to a halt. The last item, this falls really under the city administrator's report in terms of activity as a whole. Right now that myself and the negotiating team for the collective bargaining agreements and the two separate unions, both FOP and IAFF, that's fire and police, we've started negotiations on the new contract. So we are moving forward aggressively on negotiating with the unions, not only in the environment that we're in with the furloughs and the MOU and the AFSCME union, but also in general negotiating with the other unions as well. Mayor, that's my update. I'm going to turn it over to Mark Lesnicki, who's going to talk a little bit more about the financial side of the current situation.
Okay, thank you, Louis, Mayor and Council. This next slide, you can see some highlights of pandemic revenue impacts. We, as has been discussed in much of the globe, are facing some unprecedented pressures as a result of this pandemic, as evidenced by the accounts that we've listed here. The administration, with help from the mayor, have gone through the accounts in our 2020 budget to pull out those that we believe are going to be most impacted by basically the shutdown, if you will. This list here is not the full list. It's basically the top 14 accounts that represent gaps of $50,000 or more in our forecast versus what was originally budgeted. And you can see the accounts are range from real estate taxes to admissions taxes, amusement taxes, BPT, business privilege, real estate, EIT, etc. And we are keeping an eye on these as as information comes in, and in the next slides we'll see some of the impacts that are already raising their heads here. So if you would flip to the next slide. Thank you, Lewis. Here, if I was asked in March, without the pandemic looming, where we were and what we were seeing, it looked very rosy. We had a pretty bright future ahead of us. Things were going quite well. A lot of our revenues were up, and it seemed like things were moving along nicely. However, obviously things took a turn for the worse. If we look at our March year-to-date results here for the accounts that I had listed on the prior slide, the top 14 or so, you'll see that there isn't much movement. There's not a lot of red here, so the figures are showing the year-over-year comparison. So March year-to-date 2020 versus March of 2019. So that's again year-to-date comparisons on these particular line items. So, for example, real estate taxes were showing, year over year, we're down $17,000 or 0.03%. Not a really big drop. Admissions were down $5,000, which is about 4.5%. BPT was actually up about $14,000. Parking fines were up. EIT was up. Parking meters were slightly down. Sewer and trash was up. So, as I mentioned, things were looking pretty good in March. However, now if we flip over to April, you'll see virtually all but one of these accounts are now in the red. So again, this is now a comparison of year-to-date April of 2020 versus year-to-date April of 2019. So this year versus last year. You'll see real estate taxes are now down 2.4%. We do believe that part of that is because of the filing deadline extension. So we hope that most of that money will come in, although we still foresee a shortfall there with people maybe still not being able to pay. Admissions are down, again, basically the same as they were in March. However, you'll see that basically we booked nothing in April of 20. And that is basically a lagging indicator here. We know that the revenues are going to be, or the projected revenues would be showing up in the later months. Many of these companies are quarterly filers, so we may not be seeing that impact until next quarter. Similar with mechanical and amusement, those are down. BPT is down very significantly, I believe, again, in large part because of the filing deadline extension. So right now it's tough to say if the year-over-year decrease is because of the filing extension or just the lack of taxes because of everything being paused. EIT is also down. Parking fines are down. Parking meters are down. I would like to note on parking fines, not that that's a revenue source that we'd like to talk about, but if we look at year-over-year comparisons, in April of last year, we collected about $60,000 in parking fines. If we look at April of this year, it's only $1,000. So obviously we can see that the impacts of not issuing tickets are very evident here. Parking garage revenue down significantly. We haven't been charging for parking garage dailies. So overall, again, the shift has been rather dramatic just in that 1 month period. And with many of these line items, we're not going to know until next quarter really what this quarter is going to bring. So we do try to pull out as much information as we can on a daily basis. But we are somewhat limited in the insight that we do have. At that point, I will, Mayor, turn it back over to you.
Okay. Thank you. I share this news with City Council to keep you apprised of what we're doing in trying to forecast. The problem is we have a moving target. Initially, we thought we'd be opening up in May. And we thought we'd be opening up in June, and now it's probably going to be sometime, hopefully July, but we don't even know. So until we open up, we have no reason to make the difficult decisions that ultimately we're going to have to present to City Council to make. No one likes the position we're in. I'm going to give you my idea of a business recovery plan for our city to get our economy back up to where it's going and where it was. As you heard, up until March, we were doing really well. We were at experiencing double digit in business privilege tax and things like that. That's remarkable. We're moving forward. I just was with 15 mayors today writing a letter to all of our federal delegates in Pennsylvania, from Pennsylvania in Washington, the 15 largest cities in Pennsylvania, including places like Philadelphia, Mayor Kenny, and Scranton, and Pittsburgh, Mayor Peduto in Pittsburgh, and York, and Lancaster, and Reading, and Allentown, and Bethlehem Easton, Altoona, Williamsport. We all wrote the same letter. We signed on, trying to get our Pennsylvania delegation to understand. And I will say that Congressman Wild has been very supportive as one of our co-sponsors and really one of our leaders in Washington trying to get direct funding for cities. Because I firmly believe that any money that goes to the state, the state's looking at a $4.5 billion deficit, revenue gap of $4.5 billion. They're not going to be too eager to share their CARES Act money with cities. But that being said, we need to lobby hard for our own money. Otherwise, right now we're projecting, the National League of Cities did a survey to projecting that if cities don't get direct funding from the federal government, we could be looking at 1 million jobs lost in this country. And these are good government jobs in communities. And I can tell you right now that we are also, depending on how long this works, I take a lot of pride in adding 8 police officers to our staff. Well, we may have to cut next year. I take a lot of pride in putting back the 3 firefighters that were cut during the administration. We put them back. But I'm not sure. I mean, this is very, very hard for our residents. We just can't say we're going to raise taxes. Whatever we do is on the backs of the federal legislators right now. And I can tell you that some of them, they only care about the cruise lines, the airplanes, the Targets. The Ruth Chris House got $20 million. Thankfully, they returned it. But $20 million for a large restaurant chain like that was ridiculous. So we're hearing those kinds of things. We're sitting here saying, what about our cities? So I've come up with this plan that I'd like to just tell you a little bit about. It's a plan whose purpose is the following. The purpose of this plan is to assist our locally owned small businesses, especially our restaurants and retailers, to recover from the closure of their businesses during COVID-19 pandemic. Secondly, to allow city businesses to expand their footprint during what is expected to be a state-enforced social distancing requirement to deter the spread of the coronavirus. This program will be offered Thursday through Sunday business hours only. Now, I gotta tell you, I've watched Governor Wolf, Governor Cuomo, Governor Murphy, the 3 area governors. I'm impressed with the decisions they've made, and I'm not necessarily on the side of reopening all at once and just going green. However, I am of the feeling that some of our businesses should be allowed to be open. For example, barbershops and beauty salons and nail salons where they're wearing masks and they're only working with 1 or 2 people in a booth at a time. That's I think good social distancing. We could put them far apart, but at least 6 feet or more. But right now, what I'm hearing is that when we do allow businesses to open, there's going to be a long list of protocols for social distancing. So a restaurant in the neighborhood, like a Pizzadoro or an Ashley's in the West Ward or Lutzie's or Porter's, look at Porter's Pub, where you're really squeezing as many people into that pub as you can, hence people are within 3 or 4 feet of each other, they're going to be told that they got a social distance and they can only be at 50% capacity. The restaurant owners are telling me, and I would agree, it's not hard to understand, that at 50% capacity, they're not opening because they're not making any money. So this is an idea to expand their footprint outside. Obviously, it's only when weather is going to be permitted. It's only going to be from 4 to midnight, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And and it's not just for restaurants. A retailer, I'm thinking of somebody like, let's say, just around the corner. She's just around the corner on Bank Street. She can bring her product out to Northampton Street. We're suggesting and recommending that the 300 block be completely shut down to traffic because you have restaurants on both sides. You have Maxim's and Aman's on the south side, and on the north side you have the Public Market, Gino's Pizza, Terra Cafe, and Oak. So that street we're recommending that will potentially, if the restaurants want to be involved, will be shut down. But that doesn't mean the retailers like just around the corner can't bring some of her products out to the Northampton Street. And like all of us are of the age, well, maybe not Lewis, but all of us are of the age where you remember sidewalk sales in downtown Easton. And maybe we do the same thing on the 200 block with the restaurants down there. Maybe Easton Outdoor. Maybe Adam Fairchild brings some of his products out like he did for Bacon Fest and sells his wares out there. So he still has social distancing and he still can be open. So I have a long list of regulations, which I did send to City Council. I got a lot of feedback from people like Joel and Dave and John and Mark and Lewis. And the regulations, very honestly, for the public who are listening, all businesses participating in this program must be fully licensed by the City of Easton. We don't want, the vendors who show up at our Halloween parade to be out there hawking their wares. And all of them are subject to applicable inspections. So if you're a restaurant, you're going to be subject to a health inspection. Restaurant owners must provide their own tables, chairs, linens, and eating utensils, and retailers must provide their own display racks and shelves. Tables and chairs cannot extend into vehicular lanes to allow for emergency vehicles, and location of diagram of tables and chairs must be included in the application, which will be approved by the city, and I'm working on that application form right now. Where more than one restaurant exists in the same area, and I'm thinking of Pearly Bakers, Stoke, Rivals, and Standard are all in the same quadrant. We're going to shut the entire quadrant down to parking, but we're recommending, we will tell them where their tables can be located so they're not fighting over the best space. All business owners are responsible for sanitizing and cleaning all eating surfaces and furniture after each use. So if you have a 6 o'clock appointment and you get up from the table at 8 o'clock, that table has to be sanitized and chairs before people are back. Now, as far as the utensils, from what I'm hearing, you're not going to have fine dining anymore. You're going to have plastic tablecloths that can wiped down with a wet rag, and you're going to have plastic spoons, forks, and paper napkins and throwaway menus. That's what a lot of the businesses are thinking about so far. Some of the other things, obviously, all operation requirements included in the governor's executive order that are applicable to this will be enforced. All liquor control board items, masks must be worn by all employees all the time. If they're using a tent, it has to be fire retardant tent, and they have to have it not too outside of the parking spaces. Propane heaters, all those things are listed in our regulations, and also a certificate of insurance identifying the city and naming us as an additional insured to hold us harmless and indemnify us for if somebody trips while they're out there over a table or a chair. We're not covering that. They have to cover that. So they have to provide us with $1 million insurance policy. Businesses there's 20 of those. I'm not reading all of them. Businesses who do not follow social distancing rules and regulations above will forfeit their right to participate in the program. If you're not going to participate with social distancing in your plan, we're going to put you back into your place. And if you only have 50 tables out of 100, that's 50 chairs, that's all you're going to have. We understand that this program is going to be inconvenient to our motorists. We're going to be shutting down streets. But we really believe that the motorists who may be inconvenienced by 3 or 4 minutes, the future of our small businesses in our city is more important. It's, lives versus livelihood. We got to protect the lives with good testing, contact tracing, and all the things that the governor's trying to do. We need to do that. But we also need to worry about the livelihood of the people, not just the lives. And in here I have the street closures, but I also happen to say that any additional streets, these are just some of the ideas I came with here. I mean, there may be more streets. For example, Marici's is no longer in business, but Pizzadoro is. We can't shut down the 300 block of Cattell Street, but we can shut down that block of March where there's nothing left on it except Pizzadoro on the corner, and they can use their side door to get out. We will work with any business who wants to participate to help them out of this COVID-19 crisis that we're facing. So I'd be more than happy to open this up to the floor. Maybe we'll have some questions from the public at our end of our meeting. But anybody who has any questions, Roger. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, in reading it, it's very much written for businesses in the evening, which is primarily our restaurants. But what about our daytime, like example restaurants? They are going through the same thing, and a Billy's or an Angelo's. How are those people going to be accommodated by this?
We will, like, for example, with an Angelo's or a Billy's, if they want to participate, or an Antonio's across the street, we will allow them to expand into the parking spaces, but we will have to put up either jersey walls or cones or something to keep the travelers in reducing instead of 4 lanes on North Hammond Street, it would be 2. Instead of 3 lanes on 4th Street, it would be 2. I didn't go to every single business, but yeah, when I thought about Angelo's, they don't have, their sidewalk is limited. They only have about a 20-foot wide facility. We can't allow them to spread out on other people's property, on other people's sidewalks. But we could certainly take one of those lanes, those 3 lanes, and cut it down to 2 and put proper barriers there. And maybe it's just jersey walls in the front or our water barriers, and then cones along the side, and give him an opportunity to put 4 or 5 tables out there. But you're absolutely right. Once we know who wants to have it, we will have to figure out how we're going to do it. Now, some cities are just shutting down their whole downtown to traffic, to automobiles. That would be a great scenario. But
yeah. The other question that I had in reading it, it said all patrons, I believe, must be 6 feet apart. And that doesn't, it's not written for having multiple people at one table. If you take it by the words that are there.
Judging from other social distancing protocols that the governor has allowed, for example, if you go to a golf course, they're telling you it's 1 person per cart. But if you come in the same car, you could be in the same cart. If you live in the same house and you're going to go to dinner with your wife, you can have her at the same table. So, again, it would be, and if you're going to go out with friends and 2 couples are coming in the same car, they would be allowed to sit at the same table. But those are things that we have to, when the governor's new protocols come out, we have to look at them. You're absolutely right. Okay. You're absolutely right. These are questions that are not going to be answered until we know what the protocols are. Good questions, though. I'm going to make a note of them. But I already did think about Angelo's. Councilman Brown.
Billy's restaurant, they're very fortunate that they have that outside already, which will really not impact us at all because they have the side entry where people are already going to be sitting out. It's just a matter of them if they wanted to change their hours.
Right, yeah, they'd have to be open, or during the day they still have their outside patio. That's why it was very difficult on the south side, as you and Sandy know. If you talk about Pino's, he has a big parking lot there. He'd have to get permission from the owner to put tables outside. Tommy's, he has a parking lot also. Number 1 Chinese, Elena's, Delicias, they all have parking lots there. It's not public property. This is really for businesses who are fronting public property.
Gotcha.
Any other comments? Okay. Moving on.
No correspondence. No unfinished business.
No correspondence, no unfinished business. New business, Madam Clerk.
We have a resolution being introduced by Peter Milan, where the council has reviewed and approves the settlement agreement and a general release between the City of Easton and Tyrone Walker.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mayor Panto, extending all the dates for repayment of real estate taxes as well as business privilege taxes, and this was done in order to wrap it up with the Senate Bill 841.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Joel, do you want to address this at all? This is you're the one who brought it to our attention.
Well, the council had, in the emergency declaration that was originally passed, gave acceptance to the idea of extending the dates by which taxes were due. However, the emergency declaration didn't really, the state law that allows for emergency declarations did not nullify the Local Tax Collection Act. The Senate bill passed on April 20 did give specific permission to do this, provided council would, by resolution, approve it within 30 days. And that's why we're doing this, to make sure that the extension is in compliance, and also this addresses the installment payments, which were not addressed at the prior meeting. That should really be action by council. So this specifically, I think, sort of cleans up consistent with the prior resolution, what our extension.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us back to public comment.
We have one more resolution.
Oh, that's right, the other resolution that
We have another resolution being introduced by Mayor Panto. Resolved that the Council of the City of Easton, pursuant to Section 2.11B of the Home Rule Charter, cancels the council meeting scheduled for Wednesday, May 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? As I said, we won't have one on the second meeting in May, but we'll have 2 meetings in June. Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan,
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Okay. Is there any other discussion from the city council members before I open it up to the public? Okay, Mr. Lisinecki, any public? No one? For those that are listening who have questions or comments or suggestions about the business recovery plan or anything related to COVID, we are here during the day. You can email me at spanto@easton-pa.gov. Any comments or concerns you may have about the program. You can also call our offices at 610-250-6610. I've been fielding as many calls as I can, mostly listening to recordings, voicemail, because both of my staff people are furloughed. The last thing I will say is that we will get to you, but you really need to know whether you live in the city of Easton or in this other communities. I mean, I'm getting calls from as far away as Robsville about a stoplight and groundhogs in Forks Township. So I certainly don't mind. I've directed them to the right people, but our city is stops at the 15th Street border and up on Knox Avenue in College Hill. And on 611, it stops at the Highlands down at the wastewater plant. So just a little bit of humor, the types of calls that I do get during the day. Anybody there from the public? Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Sandy Volcano.
Ruggles and Volcano.
Mr. O'Connell,
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano,
Aye.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Be safe. Stay healthy. Have a good night.
Okay, you too, Mayor.
You too.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night. We're done.
Oh, why did you have a photobomb to behind the house?
The host has disconnected. The conference will now
What'd you say?
end.
Something about Sal. This is updating. I can't turn it off yet, Frank.
And the video wasn't working either because somebody texted me and said,